The rain hadn't stopped all morning. It slid down the cafe windows like tears, blurring the view of a quiet street in downtown Seattle. Inside, the smell of coffee mixed with the soft hum of a slow piano track, wrapping the place in a melancholy calm. Daniel Carter stood by the entrance, his hand still resting on the glass door, frozen mid-step. He had come here to forget, to find a few moments of peace before going back to his empty apartment. But the moment his eyes fell on the woman sitting in the corner booth, staring down at a half-empty cup and trying to hide the storm behind her eyes, something inside him stopped. And then, there was the boy, maybe 6 or 7, sitting across from her, his tiny hands wrapped around a warm cup of hot chocolate, watching his mother with a sadness far too heavy for someone his age. Daniel didn't plan to get involved. He had enough of his own heartbreak to carry. His ex-wife's betrayal had left him with scars he didn't dare reopen. But when the little boy suddenly looked up, their eyes met, wide, innocent, and silently begging. For a second, Daniel forgot to breathe. He almost walked away. Almost. Until the child whispered, his voice trembling but clear, "Please, don't leave my mom. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in moments when a simple choice can change an entire life, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep spreading stories that remind the world what compassion looks like." Daniel froze. The boy's words echoed in his chest like a plea from the universe itself. He looked at the woman again. Her name, he would later learn, was Emily Ross. Her face was pale, her eyes tired, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her cup. She looked like someone who had been fighting a battle she was destined to lose, yet refused to surrender. The boy, her son, Liam, kept glancing toward the door, as if afraid Daniel really might leave. Against his better judgment, Daniel walked over. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know why he was there. But the sight of the small coffee cup in front of Emily, untouched and cold, the way her shoulders trembled when she exhaled, pulled him in like gravity. He quietly sat down across from them, not asking for permission, just offering presence. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Only the faint clink of cups and soft café chatter filled the silence. Then Emily looked up, startled, her eyes red-rimmed but strong. Daniel noticed she tried to smile, one of those smiles people give when they're too broken to mean it. He saw something familiar in her, the same loneliness he'd been living with for years, the same ache of holding yourself together when everything's falling apart. It was a look you didn't forget once you'd worn it yourself. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't pry. He just sat there. And somehow, that was enough. As the minutes passed, Emily finally began to talk, her voice barely above a whisper. She told him she had moved to the city 6 months ago, after her husband left without a word. He'd promised to return, but never did. The house they shared was sold, the savings drained, and she was left to raise Liam alone. She'd been trying to find work, but between rent, food, and daycare, she was sinking fast. That morning, she'd come to the cafe for a job interview, only to be told she wasn't experienced enough. When Daniel found them, she wasn't just tired. She was defeated. Daniel listened in silence. Her story shouldn't have surprised him. Life was full of cruel endings. But something about the way she spoke, the strength behind her exhaustion, stirred something deep inside him. He remembered his own lowest point, the night his wife had left and taken everything but his guilt with her. He had walked into a similar cafe back then, ready to disappear into the background forever. A stranger had spoken to him that night. A simple, "You're not alone," that kept him from breaking. And now, looking at Emily and Liam, he realized this was his moment to return that gift. He looked at Liam, who was tracing little circles on the table with his finger. The boy looked up and asked quietly, "Are you going to help my mom?" It wasn't a question. It was faith. Pure, innocent faith that somehow someone would care enough to stay. Daniel nodded before he even thought about it. The next few weeks unfolded like a fragile sunrise. Daniel started stopping by the café every morning. Sometimes he brought breakfast for Emily and Liam. Sometimes he just brought company. He helped Emily fix her resume, taught her how to apply for jobs online, and found small ways to make her life easier. Fixing her car, dropping Liam at school when she had interviews, and even helping her study for a bookkeeping test. He never overstepped. He simply filled in the spaces where life had left cracks. But in helping them, Daniel found himself healing too. The laughter of a little boy became the sound that replaced silence in his apartment. Emily's smile, slow to return but sincere when it came, began to thaw the walls around his heart. And for the first time in years, Daniel started to feel something he thought he'd lost forever: hope. Still, not everyone believed in second chances. When Emily finally landed a job at a local accounting office, her new boss, a bitter man with no patience for single mothers, began making her life difficult. Late hours, unfair criticism, and the unspoken threat of losing everything again haunted her. She tried to hide it, but Daniel could see the weight growing heavier each day. One evening, he found her sitting outside the cafe again, her eyes red, hands trembling. Liam was asleep beside her, curled up in his coat. Emily told Daniel she'd been fired. The boss accused her of being unreliable for leaving early to pick up her son. That night, something inside Daniel snapped. He couldn't watch her break again. He had once promised himself he'd never get involved with anyone's pain again. But Emily and Liam weren't just anyone anymore. They were family he hadn't known he was missing. Daniel used his savings to help her pay rent that month. When she refused, he told her it was a loan, though they both knew he'd never ask for it back. Slowly, she started picking herself up again. She began doing freelance accounting for small businesses from home, and Daniel, who ran a small construction firm, offered to let her manage his company's accounts. It was the beginning of something real, not just financially, but emotionally. As seasons changed, the three of them began sharing life's quiet moments together. Trips to the park, dinners that felt like family, Christmas mornings that didn't feel lonely anymore. Daniel would never forget the day Liam ran to him, hugged him tight, and called him Dad without hesitation. Emily froze when she heard it, tears welling up, her eyes meeting Daniel's with a mix of gratitude and fear. Gratitude for what he'd brought into their lives, and fear of losing it all again. Daniel didn't let her speak. He just smiled and said softly, "He's right. You both deserve someone who won't walk away months later." As the cafe's familiar scent filled the air once again, Daniel stood by the same door where it all began. This time, the rain had stopped, the world outside bright with morning light. Emily was inside, laughing with Liam as they shared breakfast. Daniel took a deep breath, holding a small velvet box in his trembling hands. His heart raced, not out of fear, but out of something pure. The realization that he was finally where he was meant to be. He walked in, knelt beside their table, and before he could say a word, Liam grinned and whispered, "Told you he wouldn't leave, Mom." And for the first time, Emily let herself believe in forever. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that sometimes love finds us when we least expect it, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need hope today, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate kindness, redemption, and second chances. Before we end, I'd love to hear from you. Would you have stayed like Daniel did? Comment below and tell us your thoughts. Your words mean more than you know. Because sometimes, the smallest act of staying can change someone's entire life.